Oh, here we go.
Good evening, people. In the box with this week, GoofyGiord, Jack, the wasted possession Season 2 champ, the regular host of Formula E series, FM streamer, formerly Stardew Valley streamer looking for a wife, but most importantly, the inaugural Down the Local season champ. I mean, it don't get any better. Jack, how are you, my friend?
I am very good. Thank you so much for having me. Yes. Did find a wife in the end in Stardew Valley. That was good. Completed it. So that was great. I did enjoy that game. I did enjoy playing that.
I remember dropping in on a couple of people's streams and they were playing it. I was like, well, this is something a bit different. And then I remember speaking to you at the time and you're like, oh, yeah, the whole game, you got to try and just basically build your farm life, get a wife, get a family. So, Wow. I mean,
real life simulator that was. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's aspirational, isn't it?
Yes. Something I've yet to achieve, but I've done it in game. Yes.
If nothing else, I've been a success. So we've got the same 5 questions that we always have, guys, for regular viewers. You know what they are. We'll go through, obviously, from our point of view. We ask them every time because it's different answers. So let's kick off with question number 1. So, Jack, what is your first real memory of football?
It's a really good question, actually, because I was unsure. And actually, the answer came to me about 20 minutes before we started recording. Because I was like, I'm not sure what my first memory of football was. It me playing football? Yeah. Then the first memory of football for me, or the first big thing, I think, is the 2000 FA Cup final. Where Chelsea played Aston Villa, because I went with my dad, I was brought up in a Chelsea household, and my granddad came with us. And I remember I was only little. I can't remember what was going on, but then all of a sudden, as I said, like 20 minutes before it hit me, I was like, actually, was it the 2000? Because I was going to go 2002, something around there, with Chelsea losing to Arsenal in the FA Cup or whatever it was. But then I went, actually, no, what was the year? And I swear we played Aston Villa. And then I looked it up. It was the year 2000. So that, for me, is the first one. So an FA Cup final, Chelsea versus Aston Villa. I think Chelsea won 2-0.
No, they won 1-0 from recollection.
1-0.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it was like someone like Dennis Wise scored the winner.
Yeah. I don't know if that was the Roberto Di Matteo first goal in 16 seconds or something like that.
No, that was against Middlesbrough a couple of years earlier.
Okay. See, I was only 5 at the time.
Yeah.
I was 5 at the time. So
yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah. I think that was my earliest. I don't think it was that game 1998. I don't think I would have remembered. I would have been 3, so I doubt it.
Yeah. But this is the thing, because it's always good because people have memories, and we've said numerous times on the shows before, sometimes people don't realize when their actual memory is, because obviously, like you're saying, it came to you 20 minutes before, because people see so many things rerun on TV, and then you have a vague recollection of it. And you can't remember it because you've seen it on TV in a rerun before, or whether you remember it at the time. So it kind of causes a confusion within the brain. But yeah, the FA Cup final 2000, I remember being very excited, being a Villa follower, and then being very disappointed. And then
sorry to bring it up.
Yeah. And then
I was there. Can you believe it?
To be fair, though, that was probably that was the peak of Villa. I think it went from there. It went pretty much downhill from there on. I think Martin O'Neill may have won a League Cup or something, but that was about it. Mickey Mouse tournaments.
To make you feel better, I think when I was 7 or 8, I remember crying. I was like 7, and Chelsea at this time were good, right? This is like, people forget that before Roman Abramovich, Claudio Ranieri was building a small little team there, and you had like Zavida Johnson and so forth, and like the players were coming in before the Roman Abramovich money was there. Damien Duff, Frank Lampard, Joe Cole, and I remember, I think it was a Carling Cup game at the time. Yeah. And Aston Villa beat Chelsea, and I remember, I don't know why, but I just remember crying after that game, thinking so much that Chelsea were going to win, and crying after the game. So there you go. You can have bring up the Aston Villa, final, Chelsea winning, but then me crying to a Carling Cup exit.
Was that the one where Juan Pablo Angel scored a screamer? John Terry misjudged the ball completely.
Probably. I can't remember.
Angel went past him and lashed his shot. Yeah.
I remember Chelsea lost.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it doesn't happen on a regular basis anymore. So, it's good that you still remember and keep yourself real. Keep it real. Yeah. Cool. So obviously that's the first, your first real memory. What's the first major international tournament you remember?
So then I'm going to go with the 2002 World Cup in South Korea, mainly because I remember watching it in school. They wheeled out this, back in the day, right? Remember when they wheeled out the TV and it's like this,
everyone got excited.
Box, right? And yes, the TV's coming out. We're watching something on TV now. Now, being a teacher, I say it's just put on YouTube. There's no such big TV coming out, right?
Big smart screen on the back of the wall now.
Exactly. And so this little, and it's not even big, right? It's like a little square box, right? And you're in the hall, right?
Yeah.
Every year 6, what was I? 2002. Year 2 probably year 2, maybe year 3, and or year 2 going into year 3. And I remember just watching, I can't remember what game we watched, but I remember like, this is the World Cup. Like I knew it was the World Cup in 2002, but I can't remember the game we watched, but we watched a game in school which was like, because that's happened to me, like when the Euros was on, like I work in a school where these children are from a very social economic, like poor background. And they're not, football isn't a thing. Like their parents, because of their culture, football for them is not a big thing, but the kids love football. For some reason, they love football. They don't know why they love football, but that's what they play at the playtime. Whereas their parents wouldn't be, if I spoke to their parents about football, they wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo. For the majority of them. And so they like football, but they've never seen football. So to put a football game on Euros on BBC Sport, like last 20 minutes before we went home, right, let's see what Scotland are doing because they were playing at that time and so forth. And we put the Scotland-Czech Republic game on and they're like, you get that excitement from the kids. They've never seen it. And I remember trying to, before COVID broke out, and unfortunately COVID broke out, I was trying to get Brentford because I was trying to get tickets for them to go and see Brentford.
Okay, cool.
But unfortunately they gave us the Wigan game, which was their family, or like the bring to kids day, right? But unfortunately COVID said no, so
fair enough.
Try that again at some point, but now they're in the Premier League.
Good luck. Oh dear. The 2002 one's brilliant as well, because I know we've had someone else say similar, and it was that watching it, they said the same, wheeling out the TV to watch it at school with the old massive VHS and 50,000 wires hanging out the back. And I always remember going to work, and we went out to watch one of the early games, like 7:30 kickoff, and we went to Brannigan's in Reading, and they were only serving soft drinks because they'd shown one of the previous games, and people had gone in there at 7:30 in the morning and got smashed, and the place was just decimated for the day. So they then said, right, well, we've had an extended license provided, but we are not going to use it. See you later, people. So rocking up to work about 10 minutes late after watching England get beat by Brazil. Could have done with a drink. Okay, so when you played, what was your most consistent position? Where did you play most regularly?
I played in goal.
Yes. So anyone who has seen bits and pieces of Jack elsewhere, you will know that he has got a tag for himself as Safe Hands Jack.
Yes.
So, the assumption was always there that you were a keeper. So how did that come about? Because it's not the place that people generally pick.
I wasn't very. I played everywhere outfield. I remember I played and I wasn't very good, and then I became obsessed with Carlo Codicini.
Legend.
Obviously, at the time, I was a Chelsea fan. I'm a Brentford fan now, but when I was growing up, I was brought up as a Chelsea fan because my dad's a Chelsea fan. I was the oldest, so he brought me up as a Chelsea fan. And I got obsessed with Carlo Codicini. Like I couldn't, the saves he would pull off. I was awestruck. And then I said to my dad, and my dad was the manager of my. He was. This is a great story, right?
Yeah,
and I love my family for it. My dad wasn't actually my manager, so we played for a team called Celtic. But there was a not for Celtic, the Scottish Celtic. No, I'm in London. So basically, to cut a long story short, I live in like a little town near called Greenford, and there was a Greenford Celtic they were called, and then the two owners of that Sunday League club got into like a fight and one split
1-1.
off. Celtic and Greenford Celtic. So we were arch rivals. Well, we played it like that, right? That was your arch rivalry. So I remember my dad was in charge of the A team. Now I wasn't good enough to be in the A team as an outfield player, so I was in the B team. And I love my granddad and I love my uncle for it because they took charge of the B team. So my dad was doing the A team.
Yeah.
My uncle and my granddad were B team, and then I decided to go and goal. And I remember, right, we were playing in the Pitts Hanger tournament. And I was getting goal, and I was getting better by every game, right? I remember my first game in goal, I think I kicked it over my head and it went in. And so sort of disaster, right? Like one of the first things you do is you kick it the wrong way, you do a bicycle kick into your own net. But I was slowly getting better at this position. And then we got to, the summer tournaments that you do before the season starts.
Yeah, the old 5-a-sides or 7-a-sides around a place. Yeah, you still love them.
Yeah, brilliant tournaments. And Celtic A, my dad's team, played Celtic B in the final. And Celtic B won 2-0.
Nice.
And I remember my uncle lifting me up because I think I made like tons of saves. And it was lifting me up, carried me across the pitch. We got a winner's medal. Peter Crouch was there because Peter Crouch grew up. He played for Pitts Hanger. He grew up around our area.
Oh, wow. Okay,
and so Peter Crouch was there at the tournament. He was giving out like signed autograph. He was playing for QPR at the time. And he gave out autograph photos, gave us like the winners' medals and so forth. Like it was an awesome day. And then from that day onwards, I went to Celtic A. Like my dad was like, "Yeah, I'm taking you now."
Yeah, we're not having that again.
I'm taking you now. So yeah, and then I went to, and then after a while, I went to Brentford's. It was their community sports trust team. So I went down there. Amazing tournaments. We went down to Newquay every Easter. Played teams like Portsmouth and so forth. Like I wasn't in like the proper academy, but they were pushing for me to be in the academy. But they were waiting for one thing and one thing only, which I gets onto your next question, so I won't ruin it.
Yeah.
Cool. So they were waiting for one thing for me to happen because I had. Yeah. And even today, like I know I had the abilities. I got from strength to strength. Like every coach that saw me went, "Oh my God, like you've got one pair of hands. Like, your handling's so good." And I can't believe how good I became as a goalkeeper. Like even looking back at it, it's not even to like be like egotistic or anything like that. Like I can sit back and think, I was a good goalkeeper. And I kind of where my competitive streak grew because goalkeeper, they say, is a lonely position. And my aim was to always be better because it's cutthroat, right? I was having Brentford goalkeepers come to this thing, right, from being picked up by everyone else. And I was like, well, I want to keep my number one spot. So I'm going to prove I'm better than you, right? Yeah. And it just became a thing. I had to be better than whatever goalkeeper turned up. And I knew what my weakness was. My weakness was tipping it over the bar. Right. I worked countless hours, training sessions, just long ball up. And you'll know why, Sood, it was maybe you can start working it out if your inference skills are very good, was trying to tip it over the bar. And once I was able to tip it over the bar, and that didn't come to about 13, 14, when I was able to properly tip it over the bar without tipping it in. Because that's why I used to tip it in, which was so annoying. I used to hate it. It was my one like flaw. And once I learned how to do that, I went from straight, I got better. And then they said they were waiting. They held on to me until I was 16, waiting. Just waiting, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. So we could probably take a stab in the dark of what that is, but we won't. We'll move. We'll get that from the next question. Because I know obviously when we spoke briefly before as well, you said you played for Hanwell Town as a goalkeeper.
Yes.
And ironically and weirdly, a guy who was playing for me last season has just signed for Hanwell Town. So it's an interesting one. This world gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
It does indeed.
Which is really bizarre. So, we were lucky to have him as well. He was playing for the Norwich UEA University, and they've got a Saturday team, and they are very, very good. And he was he was the main man in their team, and he came to one of our training sessions. He was walking past because he'd come to do a cool down after the game the day before, and then joined in our training. Said he didn't play Sunday, so we snafu'd him. And unfortunately, we didn't get to use him as much as we'd like because COVID stopped all the games again. And then he finished uni and went back to London. Damn him. Yeah. But absolute baller. But yes, so let's move on and find out why, if no one has worked it out as of yet. Jack, if you could have done one thing that would have improved your footballing ability, what would it have been?
Grown. I wasn't big enough to be a goalkeeper. There was probably other things I would have liked to have done as well.
Yeah.
I think one thing I would have done was like to have been better distributing from my feet.
Yeah.
Because obviously as a modern game now, when I watch David Raya at Brentford, like he's very good at distributing from his feet. And that was something that I was getting better at. Like it was at one point when I was like 17, I was probably, I was a good free kick taker because I was good at learning how to get the ball up and down and improving it, but I don't think it was consistent. Like I was if I got it right, it was, but like it wasn't consistent, right? So that would have been one thing, but that's what Brentford were waiting for. Brentford were waiting for me to have a growth spurt, but I already had my growth spurt when I was like 13. I grew to 5'6", and that was it. And they were hoping that. Yeah, they were hoping there was going to be another one because they were like, I had all the agility, I had everything, the quick feet. My goalkeeping coach would make the other goalkeepers watch my feet and look how quickly I could get across from point A to point B, or how quickly I can move from one post to the other post. Like this, I don't want to, like, I remember there's some saves now that come to my head, right? You don't think, like, I used to play not far. When I drive past the pitches, I still remember some of the saves. Because they're just there. You're just like, I remember that save. Oh, can you? Like, I remember. And, but I didn't grow. So as I said, I moved to Hamwell Town, which I did actually play for before because I left my dad when I was about 13. Because you get to that stage where, your dad your dad knows you're good, right?
Yeah.
Expects too much of you. And when you get into that 13-year-old, I don't want any more arguments with you. I'm not having you criticize me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it every game. Even if I play well, you're having a go at me.
And I've saved 3 penalties, and that defender's just scored an own goal.
Yeah,
and we've lost 1-0, and it's my fault.
It's my fault. I'm not dealing with it anymore.
Yeah.
I think the final straw was the final straw that for me was, and even my mum wasn't too impressed with my dad, was I was injured. I got hurt in a game, and I had a huge bruise on my calf. Yeah, just on the front. I said, Dad, I can't continue. I can barely walk. I said, no, you play. You carry on. And my mum saw the bruise afterwards, and there was a bit of a telling off. I was like, I think I'm done. I'm going to go. And then I had a spell at Pitts Hanger and Hanwell Town. Yeah. And then went back to Hamwell Town. But I remember this double save that I made. I think I was under 17s at Hamwell Town at the stage where the Hamwell Town manager his son was in our team. Yeah. And I had got up. It was a double save. I'd made a save, got up, and then pushed the next one onto the bar, and it went over for a corner. And he wasn't coming for the game. He literally, the Hamwell Town manager at the time, literally came, he got out of his car, was walking to the field where the game was, saw the double save, and was like, wow. I was like, what a thing to see. He said to me after the game that I walked into, I remember him going, like, what a save. And I was like, cheers. And I was like, you know what? I was thinking for Hamilton, because obviously he was, when I played Hamilton under 18s as well. And I was injured that season as well. I had torn what did I tore? I tore my cartilage. Right. Now, I told my coach, horrible story for a coach, I would say, right? Under 17s, we win the league or whatever. We did really well in the season. And we do like a little fun kickabout in the training field. No warm-up, no nothing. I've never been injured. The only injury I've had is maybe I've done my finger and I've had to have it strapped, right? I've never been injured, right? I make a save and I get up and I go, oh, my leg feels funny. Right. And it never went away. So I went to get an MRI on it in the hospital. And they went, you've torn your cartilage. And I remember it. Because one of my friends said, teach me how to be a goalkeeper. So I said, I'll teach you how to be a goalkeeper. Right. I couldn't kick the ball. I was left foot. I couldn't kick it. Could not kick the ball with my left foot. I literally, if I kicked it, I collapsed in sheer agony. Yeah. So I couldn't take goal kicks. But the thing is, I started the season for Hamwell Town with a torn cartilage in the under 18s. I just said, look, because I got to a stage where I was like, look, I can dive, and it doesn't really hurt me diving. Right. I can't kick. But I can't do a goal kick. Right. I can't do it. You're gonna have to get a defender to take a goal kick. Right. I can throw it. I had a good throw. I could throw it to the halfway line. Right. But I couldn't kick. So, and they were like, okay, look, we'll get a defender. And then I just said to them, look, I said, it's not getting any better. Like we've played 3 or 4 games now and I still can't kick. So I took 6 months out. Like I was out and I came back for like the last 3 or 4 games of the season.
Yeah.
And I was long. Remember, to be fair though, it wasn't mine because I remember they were playing the game once. And I remember looking at my bedroom window and it was chucking it down with rain. And I was like, you know what? I don't mind. I'm not standing in goal today.
To be fair, that's when I go now and it's hammering down with rain. I don't like it, but at least I can take a coat and put the coat on.
Yeah.
Put a hood up. I've never resorted to the Wally with the brolly, but take a coat and put a hood up.
The rain was my favorite weather. I used to love it because the ball was wet. It would slip through for every through ball. Like, come at me. I'll come and slide and get that. And I used to love getting muddy. My mum used to be furious. I said to my mum, but the muddier I get, the better I played. But she used to hate it. My dad coming home or whoever had because when you get older, sort of the parents who do come, they sort of do the carpool and they take about 3 or 4 kids home. I was literally plastic sheets, towel to protect the car, sit on this jack because I got muddy. But I wouldn't change it for the world.
No. And I think when you said, trying to play with that injury, that's that passion for it, isn't it? Because I know when I had my last knee op, I knew it was happening. It was fairly quick, actually, the turnaround, but I knew I was getting it done for about 3 months. And I still tried to play because I was my opinion was, I'm having an op. They're already going to be down there fixing something. If it goes worse, they're going to fix it anyway, aren't they? So where's the problem? Didn't work out so well. But there was... That was kind of the idea, and that's that passion for it to want to play. Cool. Okay, so let's go for question number 5. The big 5. The 5 key attributes that you feel a modern day footballer should have to be successful.
So is this 5 attributes for a goalkeeper or 5 attributes for just a modern day?
5 attributes, I suppose. 5 attributes for a modern day footballer that potentially, if they have these 5, you could pretty much play them anywhere.
Okay. Attitude.
Cool.
Number 1.
Yeah.
You have to have a good attitude. If your attitude stinks, you're going to get nowhere. Coaches pick up on that, all the time. And that's attitude covers a lot of things, like a willingness to listen and so forth and understand. And you go through a phase like. Even I went through a phase where I would only listen to my goalkeeper coach. My goalkeeper coach didn't say to do this. If another coach was telling me, able you should look at this, I was like, I'm going to talk over my goalkeeper coach. But really, I should have just listened, right? Because just to make sure that he was my goalkeeper coach was like, you do this. Should I listen to him?
Yeah.
But so I think attitude. You must have a good attitude. You must be willing to learn, willing to accept that you're not good at something or there's areas to work on. And so forth. I think that's important.
And just to jump in as well on that one, where you were saying, coaches pick up on that very quickly, and you would have seen it living in London. When I was living in Reading, the amount of players that were playing top level Sunday League, top level Saturday League, but had been released from clubs because their attitude was crap, and they could go and play there. They were far too good to be playing at that level, but they probably couldn't be asked to train. They'd probably turn up a little bit drunk or hungover, and the attitude wasn't right, and that was why they got released from the clubs, and they ended up just wanting to play for fun, and which isn't a bad thing, but it does become a waste of talent.
Yeah, it's true. Attitude for any young kid, any young person watching this who even think is half as who's got some talent or is playing for a club right now. Just attitude is so important because that's what the coaches care about, really.
Yeah, definitely.
If you don't have the attitude now, they don't care about your talent.
No.
Because they'll be like, well, he's gonna think he's too big for his boot. So attitude is so important, and listening to coaches is so important. Like I learned so much, and again, I got Gary Vaux's his name is, and I want to say his name because he means so much to me. He was my goalkeeper coach at Pittshanger. Now he helped me so much. And now I was not even at Brentford at this stage, but he made me so much better. And he wasn't even, I couldn't do training because at this time I was working, right? I couldn't do the time that they said because I was like, I'm sorry, but I have to go to work. It just won't work. So he said, if I can start earlier, and he agreed to just do an hour's goalkeeping coach for like a whole hour before the whole training session.
Yeah.
Just so I could get some and I literally to this day I hold him so deep in my heart. Always message him on Facebook, always see how he's doing, because you don't realize it when you're 16, 17. It's what someone's actually doing for you.
Yeah.
But when it stops, you're like, oh, you know what? He was an absolute legend. He didn't have to do that. He went out of his own way just to help me. There was no other person there just to help me.
That is fantastic. One-on-one training at that level to get someone to come and do that for you is just unreal.
And he helped me so much. Like there was bits of my game which I was good at, but it was there's things you need improving. Those things I knew I needed improving on, right? And we worked and worked. And as I said, absolute legend. And I'm glad I mentioned him. I know, like, dropping names on, and I know it's a name no one will know. It's personal to me.
Oh, nice. But drop that name.
But he deserves all the credit. Like, literally, if he was to ever see this, like, unbelievable. Every time I remember quick off story, and then we'll get back to it. I remember I was playing Hamilton under 18s, and we played Pitzhager under 18s. Yeah. And he wasn't coaching anymore. His son had stopped playing, and he came to that game. We were losing one. We were drawing 0-0 in that game. Actually, we were drawing at the time, and I spotted him in the crowd, and he came round to the back of the goal. And I said to him, "I'm not playing badly, but I'm going to play 10 times better now, just because you're here." And I said, "I'm not going to let, even though you're here for the other team, I ain't letting you down. I ain't letting you down."
Yeah.
Annoyingly, we lost that game 1-0, but
oh damn it.
But I was like, I'm going to give my all just so I can make him proud. Because as I said, it meant so much to me. Back to the 5 attributes.
Yes.
So for me, I think they talk about this brain of football, right? And this is what I was talking about. You have to have a footballing brain. Now, a footballing brain, you need, I think, for me, as an attribute, which you'll see is like positioning, right? Positioning, I think, is huge. Now, even as a goalkeeper, right, half of my saves are down to positioning on where you are. And if you get your positioning wrong and you narrow the angles in the wrong place, then it's going to be easy to score. My brother plays semi-professionally at the moment on the Saturdays. And, I just go to the park with him and because that's my career now. I'm just a testy
park boy.
Park boy. Come out to the park. Come on, let me a chance to get my gloves on. Let's go. Right. Yeah. And he says, even though, like, I know I've lost a lot of what I had because of the reversibility factor, right? And I haven't been training, but there's, and it annoys me that when he scores top corner goals, even though, like, I'm small, I had the agility to once upon a time top hand those and palm them away. I'm like, I remember doing it. And when he does them, it frustrates the living hell out of me. But he says to me, the thing that will stand you out, even though, like, you might not get to them, he says your positioning and narrowing down the angle to me, he said, is better than any goalkeeper I've come across in his leagues that he plays in. And he says, like, when I come up against a goalkeeper, I know that I can maybe put it somewhere where he hasn't actually quite covered that, because I can tell when you're in that position, it's so hard to score. Like, I have to really bend it around you in order to, and that's why he's happy with his goal, because he's like, yes, what a goal. And I'm like, no, I should have saved it. So
I think the positioning as well covers so much across the pitch, because obviously I think, especially lower level, you can have players who aren't necessarily the fittest or most mobile anymore, but if they know the positions to take up, they're very rarely going to get caught out, because they've read the game and they're where they should be before that move has happened. People who sort of run around like a headless chicken sometimes end up being more detrimental to the team, because they're trying to cover too much ground and always out of position.
Yeah, agreed. My next one would be technique. Now, technique is important. Now, you might be thinking, okay, you might not have to be the most technical players, and there are players out there who are professionals who are probably not the most technical out there. But technique is, technique is so important, because if you learn, I can only talk about being a goalkeeper here, because I can't talk about technique for being a left back or a centre mid or a striker, right? But I can talk about it for being a goalkeeper, because one thing I worked on which really helped me, and again was when I was at Brentford and I was showing with the younger keepers and so forth, they would always say, watch Jack's technique. for certain ways, and it's minor things, but you have to keep repeating it. You have to keep working on these things. Diving, like there's an art to dive. Keepers just don't fling their bodies across. They don't just go. There's a way to do it. There's a way to land so you don't crash, because the first thing they taught me was you don't want to crash and hit your elbow because you're going to hurt yourself, right? So it was the art of landing as well, like and and then when you mastered like how you do your motions, how you do the K block with your legs and so forth, how you dive. The hardest thing when the goalkeepers, they dive forward and they clutch it into their chest. Yeah. And they use their back legs and they sort of dive in like forward. That was such a hard skill. That's a really underrated skill, right? Because you're doing it, it doesn't feel natural at the beginning. It feels really, really awkward to spring your body forward, clutch it, bring it to your chest. Like it feels wrong. But once you do it, and once you do it a couple of times, you feel, my God, this is so easy. It's so great. And
as a goalkeeper, it's that if you push yourself, when you dive, if you push yourself a bit forward, you've covered, because the angle becomes smaller, so the goal is smaller. The amount of goalkeepers I still see where they see a shot and they dive, they almost go backwards towards it. Yeah. And you've already lost because all your momentum's going backwards. If the ball's hit well, you may get a hand to it, but it's going in.
Yeah, it's going in, Yeah, so diving forward was a challenge, because you get the momentum and so forth. Yeah. And then it's then you got the thing about, by the way, for people who think goalkeepers just save it with their hands, they don't just save it with their hands. They need to know where to put their hand. It comes instinctive after a while, but you have to be taught, right? It's not just fling, because if you fling it, if it just hits you, it can go up, just because it hits your hand, it can go anywhere, right? You've got to make sure you've got that strong wrist. So they were really teaching how to have your wrist, and how to hold when you have your hand, how to hold your hand. So when you've got it, so it actually does parry, or you do push it away from danger. And obviously you see sometimes it's hard because shots are fired in and you don't have much time. You just got to get something on it. It'll go anywhere. And you see that even in the Premier League, he's made a shot, it's gone anywhere from point blank range. Like those are the tough ones, because palming it away to safety is difficult. What you don't want to do is palm it into the middle when it's quite straightforward, because I've done that many of the time, and you're just giving it back to the striker. And there you go, like you're 1-0 down already. So technique is so important, because and it's so worth practicing. Like my brother, he'll practice his dipping of passes and so forth, and he'll, just to make sure, and he'll do countless of hundreds of passes, till he's blue in the face, just to improve his passing. And you've got to do that, because if you don't do it, then you're not going to improve. So yes, we argue, okay, this play's not as technical, but they probably got more technique than any of us put together. Those types of players, it's just maybe it's not as strong for that level. But you don't become a professional football player without having technique. It's just,
oh God, no.
Do you have the technique to be a Champions League player? Do you have the technique to be a Premier League player, or do you have the technique to be a Championship player?
Yes.
And so forth. They've all got a level of technique, but it's how far that technique.
And what other attributes they then have to make up for their lack of technique,
exactly,
so you can get away with it. Okay, cool.
Decision
making.
I think this is my fourth one.
Yes, it is.
It's my fourth. Decision making's huge. You can't be rash as a goalkeeper. You've got to make the right decision. And that's in the same football. It's like passing. You'll be watching the football like, oh, why did you do that? You should have cut it across. You've made the wrong decision. You've played that across goal for, I don't know what reason. You're taught that at 5 not to do that. But you've somehow, for some reason, thought it was okay to play across goal, and you've been caught out. Making the decisions, like, as I said, for in goal, it's making the decision when to come, right? When to charge out of your box, something I used to love doing. But when do you charge? Because if you charge and get it wrong, you've left the goal open, and you charge, get the ball, and you get the ball, you head it clear, or you smash it out to the touchline. You've done well, right? Coming for crosses. And I'm not the smallest of keepers. I used to come for crosses. Anything that was in my 6 yard, that was my decision. I said, if it's in my 6 yard box, I come. whatever happens. If it's outside my 6-yard box, I'm just going to stay on my line because I probably got a better chance of saving the header, right? If it comes at me. But if it's in my 6-yard box, I've got to come no matter what. But I had to bail on some 6-yard ones because I knew my height wasn't going to get me, because if it's traveling to the far post, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get it. So that's when you have to go, okay, don't go for it, because if you go for it, you're just out of the game.
You're just flapping in the air.
You're just flapping in the air. You're in no man's land. And there's many a times I've done that, because you think, because you're watching the ball, you're watching the flight of the ball, and you're like, I can get this right. It's going to drop here, right? And then that's when I go, and you go, oh, and it just didn't drop when you expected it to drop, and you just look like an idiot. And that was the hardest thing for me to like. That was my weakness. It wasn't my weakness, because when I caught across, right? And when I did it, I could do it, and I had the technique of getting the leg up and so forth, protecting myself and reaching, grabbing at the highest point. I knew how to do that. It's just, if I had 6-foot Harry next to me, while I'm jumping, I know probably getting to about 6'2", and he's jumping into 6'4", who's going to win? So decision making, just making the right decision at the right time, is so important, because you can be rash, right? You want it. You're 2-1 down. It's the last 5 minutes. You get the ball in your hand. You want to have a quick release. You give the quick release, but because you're rushing and you're not making your head's not thinking. You're trying to do it. You do it wrong. You give the ball away, and it's just like So concentration sort of comes into that as well, and calmness and composure. But because you'll see people start rushing, and that's when you become rash as a goalkeeper. You're coming out, you're trying to be a hero, and you end up being a fool half the time than actually being.
All it takes is for if you don't get to that ball first, there's a chance they've scored, or you're off the pitch.
So decision making is huge. And then my final one, and I think it's just for a modern day game, and it's a sad one in a sense, and I think it's pace. I think it's pace for just a modern day player, even for a goalkeeper. Like, pace is important, because you can get out there and you can quickly pick up you can be that sweeper keeper, right? And I had a bit of pace, so I was very good at that sweeper keeper role, of just getting out the box, clear that long ball, or get out there, get to the edge of the box, and I was able to claim or slide and get the through ball. But even as a player, right, if you're on a team playing on the break, if you're a wing back these days, like a wing back now, such an important role. If you team decides not to, you need pace, and you need energy, and you need to get up and down those wings as quickly as possible. You need paces, because players are just becoming faster. And faster, and you need pace, because if you don't have pace, you don't need to be the Usain Bolt, but you need to have a bit of energy. Like, if we have a look at Ronaldo's goal, like, what was so impressive about his second goal was that little tiny bit of he was running, and then all of a sudden there was that extra burst, a boom,
little burst,
and then and he was gone, and that was just enough to get him past that defender. And it's so important, and he's 36, and he's still able to give that little boost where you're thinking, how looks like he's already running at full power, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's gone to another level. You need that, and pace. It kind of gets you out of danger. If you make a mistake, it's quicker to recover. If you don't have pace, you ain't recovering. And you're like, oh, Jack, all good, well saying pace. How do you work on pace? Well, Usain Bolt works on pace. There is pace training. There is sprint training. There's things that you can do to try and because I know not everyone has fast twitch muscle fibers. That's the muscle fibers that you have if you weren't aware. You need to sprint. If you're an endurance runner like Mofo, you have slow twitch muscle fibers. There, look, education.
I have no twitch muscle fibers.
But so like pace, I just think for a modern day footballer, like, I put it as my last one because I feel like out of all the last ones, it's probably the least important. It's still important, but I feel like all of those are more important that I said before. Why
I think if you don't have a football player. If you don't have pace nowadays, you've got to be a very, very good player for a lot of other bits and pieces. So, I agree. When we first started doing these and when I first thought about it, pace was not on my list. But the more and more I think about it, you've got to have pace will help you. And as you say, as a defender, it can get you out of jail. As a striker, it can be that little bit of extra boost to get you beyond someone. And it helps with your mobility in the centre of the pitch as well. So, it annoys me, but I'm starting to come around to the fact that pace probably should be in there. So, Jack's 5: attitude, positioning, technique, decision making, and pace. Happy with those 5, Jack?
Yeah, I think they're a pretty good 5.
Good stuff. So that is the end, guys. That is the end. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Jack.
No, Bajie, the pleasure's been all mine.
If you don't already, guys, Jack's tag for Twitch is underneath him right now. Go give the guy a look. Go follow him and then catch him recompeting. That's not even a word. Recompeting to keep hold of his title for DTL for season 2.
Yeah.
And it'll also, exactly. It'll also probably be in a Super League, a playoffs, and a wasted possession near you as well at some point. So by the time we get to November and are doing that again, he could well have a couple of other titles under his belt. Or maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah. No. That's higher. If you were a betting man, that's what I'd put it on.
No. We won't put this as a prediction, guys, just in case. Don't want to see you lose your money. Jack, it's been a pleasure. We will catch you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
No, thank you. As again, I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Cheers, guys.